He's been doing that, and he did have a relapse a couple years ago with alcohol, I believe, and he said that was the last time. Obviously, then he signed that mega contract with the Angels, which hasn't really worked out very well. He's getting paid $125 million over 5 seasons. Hasn't really produced the way he has with Texas, but reports coming out now, and John Heyman was the first to report it, that what he met with MLB about was that he relapsed with cocaine and/or alcohol, which is a very serious subject matter. Obviously, Hamilton, a recovering addict, was the number one draft pick back in 1999 with the Tampa Bay then Devil Rays, and was a five-tool player coming up. And obviously, he flashed some of those tools with Texas. Obviously, everybody remembers the 2008 home run derby in Yankee Stadium where he put on a show. So, now he also has the injury too, which, was going to be putting him back about a month or two. So, potential disciplinary action might keep him out apparently until June or July, which would be a big blow for the Angels too in that middle of the lineup, because without Hamilton in that lineup, as that lefty bat, obviously you still have Trout and Pujols there, but they were counting on Hamilton to have a big year, and hopefully a turnaround year if the Angels wanted to advance in a what's becoming a tougher AL West division now with still Oakland out there, and also with Seattle emerging very well too. So sad story to hear, like you said. Hopefully Hamilton turns his life around a little bit better, gets back on track. But we're gonna wait to see what the ruling is gonna be.
Matt, I remember, it, he's reportedly been clean for a while, and I put air quotes reportedly. He seemed, like you said, he got his act together. But I want to know that tragedy that occurred. I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, where he threw the ball over the wall, and the fan who was there with his son, reached over and fell and
Oh, that's
actually
right.
passed away. I'm wondering if that had any effect on him, because things like when you hit a bump in the road, there's always a reason for it. I know he's an addict and he's sick, but I have a feeling that had some sort of effect on him personally. To see that happen, a father bringing his son to a game, and both huge Josh Hamilton fans. He tosses them a ball, and the guy falls over the railing and drops to his tragic. That was just such a sad story, and I was just wondering if you think that had any effect on him, because I'm trying to think. This guy, he signed a huge contract. He's due like over, I think, $30 million the next couple of seasons. He's got a lot going for him. Like you said, he showed out at Yankee Stadium for the home run derby,
Right.
and I'm just trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together.
You know what it is? I mean, I'm definitely agreeing with you. I think that obviously that had an impact on him. I remember that when that happened a couple years ago, and he was still with Texas. That he met with a family. He was obviously deeply regretful. He's a very religious man too, so he turned to the church and um, for some guidance, and he's always been a very religious man. That's kind of what got him back on track, so he says. Yeah, I think though the real thing with it, Antonio, is that he has an addiction. It's an illness, it's a sickness. Obviously, I don't want to get too much into addictions and all that, because I don't want to make it a very somber show. But when you have an addiction like that, and it's a strong one that Hamilton has had for the last 10, 12 years, it's hard to kick. And he has had people on his side that have been watching and monitoring him. Obviously, like I said, Major League Baseball tests him 3 times a week. So it's one of those things that if you fall off the wagon and you relapse, it's hard to get back on, and then you're obviously always going to be under constant scrutiny and monitoring. So for Hamilton, he really needs to show that he is, deeply apologetic and sorry about this. And this is, again, not the first time that he's relapsed. But I don't think it comes as much a surprise, to be honest with you. Knowing a bit about addiction and relapsing and all that stuff, not personally, but from people I've known. It's something that's very, very serious, and you deal with it every single day of your life, and it never goes away. And for Hamilton to be in the spotlight like he is, and he paid millions of dollars like he is, the temptation's always going to be there, no doubt. So it's one of those things that he just really needs to, focus on baseball. And if he can get back to having a big career year where he was averaging with Texas, 33, 34 home runs and 115, 120 RBIs, and then the Angels win the pennant, or Angels are in a playoff hunt, I think that might motivate him and get him back on the right track, hopefully. And hopefully he doesn't miss a chunk of time. But if he does, he did it to himself. So you got to move on from there.
Well, you spoke about scrutiny, and I know this is a weird transition, but no one's more scrutinized in today's day and age in the MLB than Alex Rodriguez, obviously. And A Rod he shows up 3 days early to down in Florida, to spring training. He gets swarmed by reporters, and I mean he had the handwritten apology. And now, I mean, I don't know if you saw yesterday or I think it was 2 days ago. He answered some questions, but he's still beating around the bush. He's not admitting or fessing up to anything. We all know what he did, but there's no positive test out there, which is the reason why he can act the way he acts per se. But Matt, what do you think A Rod is going to bring to the team this year? Because I'm trying to think if a 40-year-old guy that's been supposedly on and off. Well, I think on the whole time, but on and off PEDs in his entire career. What he can actually bring to this team, given all the hip injuries he's had, things like that. Because I'm thinking if the Yankees, if he's got all this guaranteed money, the 61 million, whatever it is, if he doesn't show them something in spring training, can't they just get rid of him? Can't they just pay him off and tell him to go away?
If anybody can do it, it would be the Yankees, obviously with the money that they have. But that, I mean, are you comfortable just saying, here's $61 million, go away? And my other question to you is, if that's the case, why didn't they do that in the offseason? Why have this headache and circus act come to Tampa? If they really just felt that he had nothing left to give to the Yankees and was just going to be a headache and distraction, why not in November say, you know what, Alex, we're going to cut our losses. Here's $61 million. Thanks for the memories. Thanks for 2009 World Series. Let's go from here. But to me, at this point now, where he's obviously written the letter, he's showed up to spring training, like you said, 3 days early. He's there now. He's entrenched. He's not guaranteed a spot, though. Girardi did say, and I think he said he has to say it, that he has to earn the spot, obviously, because Headley is going to be the third baseman going forward. He obviously is also about 8 years younger, but they signed him to the offseason, the 4-year deal. A-Rod has a spot as DH, but that really clogs the lineup because you wanted to keep that DH spot empty and kind of revolving for guys like Beltran and Teixeira and McCann so that they can have, half day off so that you keep their bat in the lineup, but you're not going to, overuse their body in, challenging positions, obviously, especially with Beltran and Teixeira who, have had, injury consistently the last couple seasons. So you want to keep that empty. You want to keep that empty for the most part. But now if A-Rod's going to clog that up, and that remains to be seen. Let's see if he actually can produce because Antonio. Let's face it, we don't know when the last time Alex Rodriguez was clean. He obviously wasn't clean in Texas. He wasn't clean with New York. Was he clean with Seattle? Was he clean in high school? Was he clean in the minors? I don't think we actually ever know. Now coming up, he was a skinny kid. But that doesn't mean that he wasn't already, starting to get the process going with steroids. So my question is, what numbers are we basing him off of? At least with Bonds, we know when Bonds started, and before Bonds started, he was still an MVP, All-Star caliber, Hall of Fame player. He was still putting up tremendous numbers. So we know what kind of numbers he could put up. What kind of numbers do we know of a 39-year-old who all we've known, at least for my, lifetime, is his steroid numbers? I mean, do you have any input about what you think he could possibly put up? Is it 15 home runs? Is it 20? Can he hit 270? I mean, what do you think realistically A-Rod could give?
If he can give them 15 home runs, they'll keep him. They'll take it. I don't know, how much he's gonna play. Like you said, that the thing that worries me is, like you said, the clogging up of the DH spot because you mentioned just a second ago, Beltran's not going to play every day in the outfield. He's going to need, rest. They could use his bat, but he can't play the field every day. Same thing with Teixeira, who's been, injured the past, whatever it is, 4 seasons. Guys like McCann who are going to need a day off. And then another thing is the Yankees infield, there's no offense, Matt. There's no offense. Gregorius, Stephen Drew, and Chase Headley in the infield, in the 3 out of the 4 infield spots. That worries me a lot.
It worries me too. I mean, the one good thing that they are going towards is defensively. They're going to have a very strong defensive infield, obviously, and that if the saying is that if you can't score runs, at least prevent them, and I think that's going to help tremendously, at least with the pitching, because if you have a pitcher's mindset where you have 3 or 4 strong infielders behind you, along with obviously McCann, who is a pro behind the plate, and Ellsbury, who control and Gardner, who are both 2 excellent Gold Glove outfielders. Their defense should definitely be much improved over the last couple of seasons, especially up the middle with Drew and Gregorius. Now, you're absolutely right, though. Offensively, what is their odds of even having a guy that's going to hit 20, 25 home runs? I mean, the only guy I could think of that might be able to do that if he's healthy Teixeira, maybe Beltran, but again, Beltran's gonna need a lot of a lot of days off as well. Gardner did have what I think 18 home runs last year, so he showed a little bit of power. But you're absolutely right. Is Headley gonna be a guy that could hit 30 like he did a couple years ago with San Diego? That kind of drew the eyes back towards him. I mean, he's kind of been regressed the last couple of years. He did have a nice second half of the Yankees. Did it warrant a 4-year, $52 million deal? I don't think so. But I don't think they really had a choice. I think they needed to go out and have a third baseman. In my opinion, I would have rather had Martin Prado at third. I know that he didn't provide the power that Headley might, but at least Prado is a professional hitter, a line drive, gap to gap kind of guy, and is
Hmm.
also a versatile player. Utility, he could play all over the infield. Obviously they needed to trade him to get Evaldi, but Evaldi's got a lot of question marks too because he's a little bit wild, a little bit inconsistent. He does throw hard, but we've obviously seen in the major leagues that just because you throw hard doesn't necessarily mean you guys get out. You need to have secondary and third pitches. Um, you know, but the Yankees obviously showed that they needed pitching. If I were them, I would have probably gone out and tried to get a guy like James Shields. But they try to get creative that way, and I think Cashman now finally. It's funny because Brian Cashman has always been the kind of guy that you know struck me as a guy that would love to have like a low payroll, like an Oakland Athletics kind of team,
Hmm.
and kind of mold it in his own fashion. Because obviously in the heydays with George Steinbrenner when he's still alive, they would just spend, 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 and get all the top free agents that they possibly can. Now those days are kind of I don't want to say they're over, but it's for the right free agents now. It's not just throwing money at any kind of guy like a Bavano or Jared Wright or Kevin Brown like they used to do back in the days. So it just goes to show you. Look at that top Cuban prospect, Yoan Moncada. They bid $25 million. It was reported. The Red Sox bid 31 and a half. So they got outbid by $6.5 million to their rival for a 19-year-old teenage phenom who could potentially be a stud player for years to come. And really, if you look at the Red Sox, do they really need Moncada? I mean, you have Bogarts. You just signed Sandoval. You have Pedroia still signed. You have Napoli in the infield. I mean, where is Moncada fitting in? I mean, I know Moncada is probably going to be at least a year or two away from the majors, but obviously, if any team needed Moncada, it would have been the Yankees. I would have thought. So you're absolutely right. I don't know where they're going to get this offense from. I guess they're hoping on banking on big years from Teixeira and Beltran and McCann in his second full season, and having a good year from Ellsbury. So we're going to see.
You know, it's funny because if you pair the Mets pitching with the Yankees, lineup, infield, overall defense, you have yourself a squad. The Yankees are trying to play that way, like you said. They're trying to rely on defense and pitching, which they don't have. And if you switch over to the Mets side, I think that their pitching is really good. I'm just overall as a Yankee fan, I'm just expecting nothing this year. I'm expecting a big year from the Mets. I'm not really this whole A-Rod thing is just turning me off as a Yankee fan, just in terms of my optimism towards the season and my excitement. I'm more excited to watch the Mets this year. Honestly, I want to see Matt Harvey pitch. I want to see the young guys come up. I want to see like Syndergaard, who is supposedly gonna come up. I mean, I know they were talking about that last year, but I think his time, or he's due, for his time in the big leagues. They signed Kazire. They got the question at the shortstop position, but I'm just excited to see the Mets play, because I think they really could improve, and it's gonna be a big year for Terry Collins. He's been there a while now. I think how long has he been there? 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah, Collins. Collins. I think this is going to be going on his fourth or fifth season now. Yeah, and this is going to be his first real season where he's kind of has all his
Exactly.
ducks in a row. Finally, where he's got healthy players. David Wright obviously coming off of that shoulder surgery. Harvey coming back from Tommy John surgery. So you're right. This is kind of his first real season with everybody ready and raring to go. But I tell you one thing, Antonio. If the Mets are under or 5 games under 500 in May, Collins is gone.
Oh yeah,
There
absolutely.
is no way that Collins is going to be staying there if the Mets are underachieving. Because I do expect this team to be to pleasantly surprise. I don't think they're going to be, an 81 or 82 win team. I think they have the chance to be an 85, 86 win team, and if they are, that might put them in the second wild cards position potentially. And they definitely have a good chance with that. I know they only got Mayberry Jr. and Kadire in free agency, but with the additions, like you said, of the rotation coming back healthy, they really have 7 or 8 starters that could go at any time. And speaking of starters, maybe I mean, I know the Mets and Yankees don't really do many trades. I think the last time I can remember a trade with them was the trade like David Justice from the Yankees to the Mets, I believe, and they quickly traded him to Oakland, I believe. But I mean, they don't do many trades, obviously. But hey, I mean, you have Derek, Dylan G available. Montero
Oh,
might be
that would be a
available.
dream. The Yankees could use one of those guys.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. I mean, I think the Yankees could. I mean, the Yankees could use any kind of pitching they can get, especially with the question marks of health-wise of Tanaka and Sabathia. They could say all they want, but they're going to be, crossing their fingers and holding their breath the whole year with Tanaka.
Yeah, that his elbow is really a ticking time bomb. Matt, let's take a quick break, and we're gonna come back, and I think we're gonna talk a little NBA.
Let's go a little NBA around the league.
All right, we'll be right back.
Take me back